There's a button, a simple button. When pressed, it creates money, billions of dollars, out of nothing. No work required, no value produced, just numbers appearing in accounts. And the people who control that button could end poverty tomorrow, could pay off every debt, could fund every dream. But they don't. Why? Because the last time someone tried, they destroyed an entire country. This is the story of what happens when governments print infinite money, and why that button is the most dangerous weapon in the world. Imagine waking up one day in your entire life, savings can't buy a loaf of bread. Not because you spent it, not because you lost it, because while you were sleeping, someone printed so much money that yours became worthless. This isn't a hypothetical. This has happened multiple times to millions of people. And it could happen again, because the temptation of that button is too strong, and the consequences too delayed for politicians to care. Let me take you back to Germany, 1923, the Weimar Republic. World War I just ended. Germany lost. The Treaty of Versailles demanded massive reparations, payments the country couldn't afford. So the government faced a choice: default on the debt and face invasion, or print money to pay it. They chose to print. At first, it seemed to work. They paid their debts. The economy kept moving. People had jobs. But something strange started happening. Prices began to rise. Slowly at first, then faster, then exponentially. By 1923, inflation was so severe that prices doubled every few days. Workers demanded to be paid twice a day because, by afternoon, their morning wages were worthless. People brought wheelbarrows full of cash to buy groceries. A loaf of bread that cost half a mark in 1918 cost 200 billion marks by November 1923. 200 billion. For bread, life savings evaporated overnight. Pensions became worthless. The middle class was wiped out. Not by war, not by invasion, by their own government printing money. And this is where it gets terrifying. Here's what most people don't understand about printing money. It's not creating wealth, it's redistributing it. When a government prints $1 trillion, they're not making the country richer. They're making every existing dollar worth less. It's a hidden tax. A theft so sophisticated, most people don't even realize it's happening until it's too late. You didn't lose your money, they diluted it, watered it down until what you had became nearly nothing. This isn't ancient history. This is your grocery bill. You're living the early stage of this right now. Every time you check out and the total shocks you. Every time you think prices weren't this high last year. That's not your imagination. That's the early phase of what destroyed Germany. Just slower. Just subtle enough that most people don't connect the dots. Here's the part governments hope you never connect. Let's jump to Zimbabwe, 2008. Robert Mugabe's government needed money. Tax revenue was collapsing. The economy was failing. So they did what desperate governments always do. They printed, and printed, and printed. Within a year, Zimbabwe experienced the second worst hyperinflation in recorded history. At its peak, prices doubled every 24 hours. Every single day, your money lost half its value. By the end, Zimbabwe was printing $100 trillion bills. 100 trillion. And it couldn't buy a bus ticket. People abandoned their currency entirely, used foreign money, bartered, anything but the local currency that had become literally worthless. The government had destroyed trust completely. And once trust in money is gone, it's almost impossible to rebuild. Money only works because we all agree it has value. When that agreement breaks, the entire system collapses. And no amount of printing can fix what printing destroyed. You don't need wheelbarrows of cash to be robbed. You just need inflation. And you have it. Right now. Your paycheck buys less than it did 2 years ago. Your savings account is losing value while you sleep. The number stays the same, but the purchasing power shrinks. That's the same mechanism that destroyed Zimbabwe, just moving slower. For now. Here's the dark genius of money printing. It doesn't hurt everyone equally. When the government creates new money, they spend it first. They pay their bills, fund their programs, bail out their friends, and they do it while that money still has full purchasing power. By the time that money reaches regular people through jobs or benefits or loans, prices have already adjusted. The wealthy and well-connected get to spend new money at old prices. Everyone else gets to spend old money at new prices. It's a wealth transfer, from the bottom to the top. Legal, invisible, devastating. What happens next is why this matters right now, not in history books. Venezuela. Once one of the richest countries in South America, massive oil reserves, educated population, strong infrastructure. Then they started printing money to fund social programs, to maintain power, to avoid making hard choices. By 2018, inflation hit over 1 million%. 1 million. A cup of coffee in the morning cost more in the afternoon. Savings disappeared. Jobs became meaningless because paychecks were worthless by the time you got them. People were starving in a country with the world's largest oil reserves. Not because of war, not because of drought, because their government couldn't stop pressing that button. Here's what nobody tells you about these collapses. They don't happen overnight. They happen slowly, then all at once. First, a little inflation, just a few percent. Manageable. then a bit more. Prices rising, but not alarmingly, then faster, then catastrophically. By the time people realize what's happening, it's too late to protect themselves. Their cash is already worthless, their savings gone, their future erased. And the government that caused it, often still in power. Blaming external enemies, claiming it's temporary, promising solutions while making it worse. You're in the first stage right now, the manageable stage, where it's noticeable but not catastrophic, where you complain about prices but still go to work, still save money, still trust the system. That's exactly where Germany was in 1921, where Zimbabwe was in 2006, where Venezuela was in 2013. The question isn't if it can happen to you. History says it can happen anywhere. The question is whether your government stops before reaching the point of no return. And this is where it gets even darker. Here's the cycle that destroys currencies. A government overspends more than it collects in taxes, so it borrows, takes on debt. But debt requires interest payments, which means they need even more money. They can raise taxes, which is politically unpopular and might get them voted out. They can cut spending, which angers everyone who benefits from that spending. Or they can print money, create it from nothing, pay their bills, kick the problem down the road. And every government facing this choice is tempted by that third option, because the consequences come later, often after they're out of office. But the benefits are immediate. Think about the incentives here. A politician faces re-election. The economy is struggling. They can tell voters the truth. We overspent. We need to cut programs and raise taxes. Good luck winning with that message. Or they can print money, stimulate the economy, create jobs, increase benefits, win the election, and let some future administration deal with the inflation. The system rewards short-term thinking and punishes long-term responsibility, which is why this pattern repeats throughout history, different countries, different decades, same story. Here's the part that should terrify you about right now. Let me take you to Hungary 1946, the worst hyperinflation ever recorded. Worse than Germany, worse than Zimbabwe. At its peak, prices doubled every 15 hours. 15 hours? The government was printing money so fast they couldn't even count it. They waited instead. Literally measured currency by weight because counting was impossible. They printed a 1 sextillion a pengo note. That's a 1 with 21 zeros. Completely meaningless. The currency was abandoned, a new one introduced, and everyone who had saved in the old currency wiped out completely. Here's the brutal truth about hyperinflation. It destroys more than money. It destroys social trust, savings, planning, hope. When money becomes worthless, nothing makes sense anymore. The person who worked their entire life and saved has nothing. The person who spent everything is no worse off. Hard work doesn't pay. Responsibility doesn't pay. Only spending immediately before your money evaporates makes sense. It inverts every healthy economic behavior, turns society upside down, and the recovery takes generations. And this is where it connects to you. You want to know why governments can't just print infinite money and make everyone rich? Because wealth isn't created by printing paper. It's created by producing things, building things, providing services. Real value. Money is just a claim on that value. When you print more money but don't create more value, you haven't made anyone richer. You've just given everyone more claims on the same amount of stuff, which means each claim is worth less. It's not magic, it's math. And you're experiencing that math every time prices go up faster than your paycheck. Here's what makes this terrifying for right now. Governments around the world are printing more money than ever before. Trillions in stimulus, quantitative easing, debt monetization, different names, same action, creating money out of nothing. They promise it's different this time, that they've learned from history that modern monetary policy is more sophisticated. But the math hasn't changed, the incentives haven't changed, and neither has human nature. You're living this right now. Let me show you the warning signs. First comes low inflation, manageable, expected even. Then it ticks higher, still controllable. They say it's transitory, temporary, supply chain issues, external factors. Nothing to worry about. Then it accelerates. 5%, 7%, 10%. Suddenly your grocery bill is shocking. Gas prices spike, rent jumps. Your paycheck buys less every month. You're not imagining it. You're experiencing the early stages of what printing money always causes. The question isn't if it happens. It's how far it goes before they stop. Here's the trap. Once inflation starts, stopping it requires pain. You have to stop printing money, raise interest rates, accept recession, accept unemployment, accept political consequences. Every government says they'll do it. Few actually do, because the pain is immediate and the relief distant. So they compromise. Print a little less, raise rates a little, just enough to say they're addressing it without actually solving it. And the inflation continues. Slower maybe, but still there. Still eating away at your savings, still transferring wealth, still destroying your purchasing power. Here's what happens next and why you need to pay attention. Think about what printing money really represents. It's a government choosing to take value from everyone who holds their currency and use it for themselves. It's taxation without legislation. Theft without breaking in. They don't need to raid your bank account. They just make what's in it worth less. And you can't stop them, can't opt out. See and protect yourself unless you understand what is happening and move your wealth into assets before the printing destroys the currency. Let me tell you about the people who suffer most from money printing. It's not the rich. They own real estate, stocks, businesses, assets that rise in value when currency falls. They're protected, often profiting. It's you, the working class, the retirees, the savers, people who did everything right, worked hard, saved money, kept cash for emergencies. You're the ones who get destroyed. Your savings evaporate. Your fixed incomes buy less every year. Your responsible behavior punished while speculation gets rewarded. That's the cruelest part. The people who played by the rules lose everything. And the people who understood the game got out in time. And this is where governments hope you never look. Here's something they won't teach you in economics class. Every major currency in history that wasn't backed by something real has eventually failed. Not some, every single one. The Roman denarius, continental currency, assignats, Weimar marks. All worthless now, because governments always face that temptation, that button, and eventually they press it too many times. The only question is timeline. Some currencies last decades, some centuries, but none last forever. Not when they're based on nothing but trust, and that trust can be destroyed by printing. Modern currencies aren't backed by gold anymore. Nixon ended that in 1971. Now they're backed by nothing but faith. Faith in the government, faith in the economy, faith in the system. As long as everyone believes, it works. But belief is fragile, and governments are printing like never before. At some point, that belief cracks. Not all at once, not dramatically, just slowly. People start preferring other currencies, hard assets, anything but the paper their government keeps creating out of thin air. You know what's crazy? We have thousands of years of history showing that printing money leads to disaster. We have dozens of examples from the last century alone. Germany, Hungary, Zimbabwe, Venezuela, Argentina. And yet, governments keep doing it, keep believing they're different, that they're smarter, that modern economics has solved the problem. But they haven't. They've just delayed it, made it more complex, hidden it better. The fundamental truth remains. You cannot print wealth. You can only redistribute it. And usually, you redistribute it away from those who can least afford to lose it. Away from you. Here's the part that should keep you awake tonight. Let me show you what happens when people lose faith in money. Barter systems emerge. People trade goods directly, eggs for bread, services for food. The economy devolves, complexity collapses. Everything becomes harder. A functioning economy requires functioning money. Once that's gone, society itself starts to break down. Crime rises. Social cohesion fractures. People hoard real goods and refuse paper. Trust evaporates. And rebuilding that trust takes years, sometimes generations. The damage from printing too much money extends far beyond economics. It damages the social fabric itself. Here's the question that should keep you up at night. How much money can your government print before breaking the system? Nobody knows. There's no exact number, no clear line. It's different for every economy, every currency, but somewhere there's a limit, and we're testing it right now with trillions in new money, with debt levels never seen before, with inflation already rising. We're running an experiment with your savings, your future, your economic security, and the people running the experiment have no idea where the breaking point is. They just know they're not there yet. So they keep printing. Think about the choice governments face. Admit they overspent and make painful cuts, raise taxes and anger voters, or print money and let inflation slowly steal from everyone while they deny responsibility. Which do you think they choose? Which have they always chosen? History has answered this question over and over, and the answer is always the same. They print, they deny, they blame external factors. And by the time people realize what happened, their savings are gone. Your savings. Here's what I need you to understand. This isn't ancient history. This isn't just about faraway countries with unstable governments. This is about the fundamental nature of money and power. Every government with the ability to print money faces the same temptation, and most eventually give in. The United States, Europe, Japan, all printing massive amounts, all promising it's under control, all hoping they can pull back before causing catastrophic inflation. But hope isn't a strategy, and history suggests they're wrong. And you're the one who will pay the price if they are. The reason governments can't print infinite money is simple. Because infinite money equals worthless money. The more you create, the less each unit is worth. Keep going long enough, and you get Weimar Germany, get Zimbabwe, get Venezuela, wheelbarrows of cash that can't buy food, workers demanding payment multiple times daily, currency so worthless people use it as wallpaper because it's cheaper than buying wallpaper. That's not a functioning economy. That's economic collapse. And it starts with a simple decision. Just print a little more, just this once. Just to get past this crisis. Every government that destroyed its currency thought they were different, thought they'd stop in time, thought they could control it. None did. Because the political incentives always push toward more printing, more spending, more kicking the problem to the next administration. And by the time the consequences arrive, it's too late. The currency is broken, trust is destroyed, and regular people suffer while those who saw it coming got out safely. Once you understand why governments can't print infinite money, you see every economic policy differently, every stimulus package, every quantitative easing program, every emergency money creation. You see them for what they are. Not help, not stimulus, theft, slow motion wealth transfer, from savers to borrowers, from workers to asset owners, from the future to the present, from you to them. And the people doing it know exactly what they're causing. They just hope the worst consequences come after they're gone. The button exists. The temptation is real. The consequences are inevitable. And the people controlling that button have proven throughout all of human history that they cannot resist pressing it. The only question is when, how much, and whether you'll see it coming in time to protect yourself, because they can't print infinite money, but they'll try, and your wealth will be the cost of their experiment. Every collapse in history started the same way. Just a little more money. Just this once, just to get through this crisis, and it always ended with ordinary people paying the price. Not the politicians who made the decisions, not the bankers who advised them, not the wealthy who got out in time. You, the person who worked hard, saved responsibly, trusted the system. You're always the one left holding worthless paper. Now you know why, and now you know what to watch for.